We'll begin seated, starting at the top of the body with the neck. So on an exhale, let the heavy head fall forward, and inhale, heavy head falling back. A couple times back and forth. When the head is forward, we're stretching open the back of the neck, and when the head is back, stretching open the throat. And each of these movements brings fresh blood through the thyroid gland, as well as warming up the small muscles of the neck. Maybe about 4 times back and forth, and then we'll go side to side, again feeling the heaviness of the head falling toward one shoulder and then the other. Stretching open the neck muscles on the side, and feeling the way it naturally pulls the shoulder and the rib cage a little bit at the end range. So playing with that, or intentionally isolating the head movement apart from the shoulders. Next, rotation of the neck, using the eyes as well, turning to look over one shoulder fully, making space in the vertebrae by lengthening the crown of the head up so that with the twist we aren't compressing anything. Exhaling to twist, inhale, pass through center. Exhale, twist the other way, and inhale through center. Again, noticing how the movement trickles down to influence the shoulders and the rib cage. Maybe letting that go a little bit just to feel the connection, but also intentionally isolating this movement of the neck apart from the torso. I'm going to drop the head down in center and take a half little roll to the right side. Exhale, roll through center. Inhale, roll to the other shoulder. And this third time around, we're going to let the head roll heavy all the way around the back, supporting it with the neck muscles in the back if it feels uncomfortable when the head falls. And we'll go the other way. Inhale, ear to right shoulder. Exhale through center. Inhale, left ear to left shoulder. And exhale through center. And inhaling the head, right ear, right shoulder, all the way around the back to the left. Dropping down in center, and then clasping the hands, just letting the weight of the arms gently pull the head forward for more stretch in the back of the neck. Maybe little micro movements side to side, pulling into either side of the neck muscles, pausing wherever it feels good. So we'll bring the hand over top of the head, reaching to the opposite ear, pulling the bottom arm down and away, pulling the shoulder down and away to really stretch open the side of the neck there. Just gently pulling, maybe finding small movements here as well. Finding the tightest fibers, breathing into that stretch, and rolling the head through the center to the other side. We'll do the same, just fingertips on the floor, reaching down and out through the shoulder, opening the space in the neck as the weight of the arm overhead assists the stretch. Breathing deeply all the time. And when you're finished, you can let the head roll back through center. And then inhale, bringing the head up to neutral. And we'll go into the shoulders now. Full range of motion, rotating one shoulder, front, up, back, and down. And then maybe extending that reach through the elbows. Same motion, just reaching through the elbows this time and feeling the change in the body, how it starts to reach down into the rib cage, up into the triceps. And finally, full arm circles, like slow swimming motion, articulating through the fingers and hands so that we're also acknowledging and warming up those far away parts from the center of the body. Notice how it pulls the body into a twist, using the eyes and the head, and we're going to reverse the swimming motion about 4 times with the full reach of the arms, finding full range of motion in the shoulders. And then 4 times, just elbow reach, a little bit smaller, but still a reach. Breathing deeply, feeling fluid in the spine, through the torso. And then back to the smallest, just the shoulders rolling back, up, front, and down. And then finishing there after 4 of those. I'm just going to stretch out the fingers, the hands, the arms. So put the fingertips together, just press the hands toward each other to open up the bottoms of the fingers, and then splay apart each pair of fingers, working your way from the thumb to the pinky. And then each finger, just give it a second or two of pulling back away from the hand, stretching out all of the tense muscles in the hands that we use for all of our daily activities. I'm going to shake the hands, shaking tension out of the fingertips. And then placing the hands down in front of you, fingertips toward you, wrists away. So we're going to get a really deep stretch on the inside of the forearms here. Maybe I like swaying side to side just to feel the change in the stretch from one side to the other. And then do the same thing, turning the hands over. So now stretching out the top of the wrists. You won't get quite as much range of motion there. Okay, moving up into the arms, we'll stretch out the triceps, pulling an elbow behind the head, maybe pushing back into the arm with the head if that's possible. Breathing into the stretch in the tricep and armpit. And trying to find a neutral spine so that the rib cage isn't jutting forward too much to accommodate. Switching sides when you're ready. Breathing into the opening on the underside of the arm. We'll move to stretching out the deltoid, the shoulder. So pulling the arm across the body and then maybe dropping the head toward that outstretched arm just to give a little more space on that side of the neck and shoulder. Switching to the other side. So as you pull the arm across, the arm that you're pulling's shoulder can reach down and back a little bit. So a bit of traction within the body there to open up the shoulder muscles on the outside. So I'm going to turn around so that you can see my hands. One hand over, one hand under, reaching for the fingertips. If you can't reach, just grab your shirt and sort of walk your hands toward each other and hold on. So we're getting tricep stretch on the top and then front of the deltoid on the bottom arm. It's important to try to keep the spine and the rib cage neutral. Again, the ribs will want to jut forward to make space for the hands. Try to keep the rib cage sort of closed in front, equal space front to back. And you'll feel a little more stretch on the bottom arm's shoulder. Breathing into that, both sides. Okay, last arm stretch here. We're going to cross the arms. Try to double cross. Everyone's double cross will look a little different. Drop the shoulders down and back. Lift the elbows up. Pull the hands gently away from the face. And then possibly drop the chin a few inches toward the chest, and you should feel a really deep opening between the shoulder blades. Top of the neck, top of the shoulders rather. So just swing the arms out a couple times. Remember which arm you had on the bottom because we're going to switch. Working toward that double cross, shoulders down and back, elbows up, hands away from the face, and drop the chin. Keeping the spine long and breathing into the space behind the shoulder blades, the back of the heart, allowing that to be soft. And swing the arms out a few more times, opening the chest as we do that. And then place the fingers, the hands down behind your pelvis, fingertips toward your pelvis, maybe 6 to 8 inches or so, just opening the chest. And then maybe pressing down into the knees and shins, floating the pelvis up toward the sky, feeling a nice deep stretch in the front of the shoulders and the biceps. So from here, we're going to warm up the spine in all 6 of its directions. Exhale, curling the belly button back. And inhale, expanding the front body forward. So it's a seated cat-cow. You can hold on to the knees at first to feel that traction, rounding the spine. And then inhale, arching the spine. I'm going to release my arms and just sort of let them flow out from the shoulder naturally. Pull the elbows back for the extension, feeling the squeeze of the shoulder blades behind the heart. Exhale, arms flow forward. And inhale, elbows pull back. I'm going to take the arms around the head on the horizontal plane. Elbows still pull back here, but they're extended out the side from the shoulders. Inhale, elbows pull back. Let's take the arms in a full circle, same spine motion. Exhale, arms dropping from the bottom. And inhale, lifting up to arch the spine. Exhale, circle the arms from the bottom. Inhale, lift up, arch open, chest to sky. Reverse in that circle. Exhale, arms pour forward from the top. Inhale, scooping the arms from the back and up overhead. Exhale, scooping forward. Inhale, arching from the bottom, and we'll let that go. So my left leg's in front. I'm going to reach my right fingertips out on the mat, lifting the left arm, bicep by the ear, but shoulder relaxed down away from the ear so the neck isn't tense. And we're bending to the side. Try to keep that left sits bone rooted in the ground so it doesn't pull up because of the side bend. Keeping that top shoulder open to the sky so it's not closed off without much tension in the neck, hopefully. And then exhale, we're going to reach out the long diagonal beyond the right knee, bringing both palms to the floor, and here you'll feel a wonderful low back stretch on the left side. So pulling the left shoulder away from the left hip, breathing into the low back on that side. And then maybe gently and slowly walking the hands little by little toward the center line. And you'll feel the stretch change here even just a little bit closer as more into the glute on the left side. And then as we fold forward, trying to relax the low back, the pelvis, the hips, feeling the head and the arms pour forward into the earth in front of you. And then when you're ready, exhale, roll up the spine. Head and arms are the last thing to come up. And we're going to switch the cross of the legs, which may or may not feel strange. And we're going to go the other way. So the right leg's in front. We're going to bend to the left, away from it, reaching the left arm, fingertips out on the floor, right arm, bicep by the ear, shoulders down and away from the ears. Finding a true side bend, meaning that top shoulder is lifted up to the sky, open to the sky, so that we're not accidentally sort of closing it off prematurely. Breathing into the ribs on the right side, making space in the armpit, the ribs. And then exhale, long diagonal to the left. Let the head be as heavy as possible. It's all one line of fascia from the back of the skull, down the neck, the back. The low back now on the right side is where we're feeling the stretch. So if we release the head fully, we'll get much more out of the stretch than if we hold it up. Maybe slowly working the upper body towards center, breathing into the glute on the right side as you feel it. And then walking the hands directly forward, heavy head if possible, forehead on the floor or maybe on a pillow to bring the ground higher up to the head if it doesn't come all the way down. It's so nice to feel the forehead relaxed into the earth. The third eye center making contact with the earth. And then slowly rolling up the spine, taller than ever. I'm going to bring the arms up overhead and twist the entire spine, looking over the right arm as we twist to the right. Let them drop down and come back through center. Inhaling up, exhaling, twist, squeezing the abdominal organs. And release the arms down, back through center. Inhaling up, crown of the head reaches up as we twist, making space in the vertebrae. And release the arms down. Last time, inhaling up. Exhale, eyes go with you around the left. And release the arms down. You want to just take a moment to crack your back or use the legs and floor for leverage to get a deep twist. That's always nice. So we're going to be drawing circles of the torso around the pelvis just to lubricate the hip joints really gently. Maybe 3 times to the right before going to the other direction. The spine is long. It's almost like a beam of light out the top of the head, circling on the ceiling. Just to warm the joints before we start to get a little more into the legs. So we're going to bring the feet on the floor really wide, actually. Hands behind for support. Let both knees fall to the right. And then opening to fall to the left. So the right knee is going to rotate open, and then eventually it's pulling the left to close. And then the reverse left knee opens, pulls the right to close. I'm going to build on this. We're going to bring the knees to the right, reach the right arm a little further behind you, and take a full body twist, sweeping the arm up by the ear. Trying to, if you could, look all the way behind you to see your toe. So going from side to side, right arm down, left arm sweeps up, twisting to the right. And exhale, pass through center. Left hand down, right arm up, sweep, twisting to the left. One more build on this, if it's possible in your wrist and shoulder, just picking the pelvis up, and it's a wonderful stretch through the hip flexor, through the pelvis, through the side body. Inhaling deeply to stretch open the right side as we twist left. And exhale, pass through center. One more time each side. Pressing into the arm, keeping the shoulders down and back, away from the ears for best support of weight bearing. Pelvis presses up as we press down into the knees and shins. We'll stay on this side, meaning keep the legs where they were, and just pull that right leg in a little bit tighter. So the heel is right by the pelvis and the knee is pointing directly forward from the pelvis. And the left foot is just resting beside the knee, open. That left knee is open. And you can walk yourself back, maybe to the elbows, maybe laying all the way back, depending on how you feel in your low back and in your knee. Option to place that left foot over the knee, just to sort of help anchor it down even more. So this stretch is really nice for the front of the thigh, the front of the hip flexor. Sort of a passive quad stretch. And to get up, we're going to roll to the left and press into the hands to bring the body all the way around. And then rolling the legs to the other side. Left knee now pointing directly out in front of the pelvis, pulling the left heel to the outside, but really close to the pelvis. Right knee is open, right foot by the left knee, walking ourselves back to whatever degree feels comfortable. Maybe hands, maybe elbows, maybe all the way, as long as there's not too much tension anywhere. Breathing into the stretch in the front of the left leg now. Option to place the right foot over top the left knee, anchoring it down. Maybe gently pressing the hip up toward the ceiling by engaging the left glute muscle. That'll intensify the stretch a bit. And in order to get up, we're going to release the top foot back beside the leg instead of on top of it, and roll to the right. Hands down into the ground to sit yourself up. And then coming back through center. Now bringing the legs to a butterfly position. And the first time we do this, it's going to be really tight butterfly position, pulling the heels in as close to the pelvis as possible. So not a lot of range of motion here, but we'll get some deep inner thigh opening and outer thigh opening, folding forward, holding the feet to pull the head down toward the feet. Moving my elbows here onto the knees to gently press them down. Again, just an option to intensify the stretch if you want to try. We'll come on up and we're going to come into a long butterfly, really long diamond. It'll feel very different. There's a lot more range of motion possible here. More of a glute stretch, maybe a little bit low back as well. Drop the head down, fully dropped. And I'm going to come back to that long diagonal here. If it felt good for you before when we did the side bend, definitely do it again. Into the low back we go. Coming up through the side bend, I'm not going to linger there long. Just coming back through the diagonal, passing through middle. Other diagonal, reaching away from the right hip as we reach the arms to the left diagonal. Maybe coming up into that side bend. And then passing again back through the diagonal, heavy head. Pausing anywhere that feels good. That feels like it's what the body needs right now. Coming back through center. And once you're finished, rolling up gently. Let's thread the arms underneath the knees if possible. So the insides of the elbows are facing the insides of the knees. I'm going to press my feet together. Press my hands down and away into the floor, knees pressed down, and then rounding the back up toward the ceiling. Head is heavy, relaxed. This is another nice stretch for pulling open the muscles between the shoulder blades in the upper back, if it's accessible to you. And then pulling the arms out when you're finished with that. Let's stretch the legs out long, but not keep them together. Like a little V, maybe just slightly wider than the hips. So we're going to stretch the hamstrings here. Let's reach the arms up overhead, feeling the long spine, folding forward over the long, straight legs. I like to sway side to side in a lot of things, but especially when stretching the hamstrings. So feel free to do that. Maybe bend one knee and stretch the other. We want to be making space in the low back. I like to pull my toes back to intensify the stretch in the low leg. But if you're just grabbing onto the ankles or the shins, that's perfectly fine. Not too much tension or strain. Finding a way to breathe into the back of the legs. And we'll roll up out of that when you're finished. So coming into the inner thighs, go into a wide V, whatever wide is for you. This might be a little bit easier if you sit up on a thick pillow or a folded blanket, just to bring the hips up a little higher. So you could try that. So I'm pressing my right leg down into the ground. That straight right leg presses down, sends the body over to the left. And then the other way, press the left leg down. The body naturally waves away from that to the right. So I'm doing this in order to activate the hamstrings, which are going to be pretty severely stretched in a moment. So it's a really good idea to activate them, basically get blood flowing through them before we ask them to release. It's also just a really nice feeling, this sort of seaweed flowing feeling through the torso. So I'm folding over to the left, reaching the right arm up away from the right hip. Legs are straight, feet are flexed. If it's possible to grab the foot from overhead, you can then sort of traction the rib cage up toward the sky. Get a really deep stretch into those side body muscles as well. And then I'm turning the chest and the head to face that leg. It's a little different orientation than the side bend. A little bit more hamstring involved. And I really like to sort of roll my body a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, like literally rolling the leg internally and externally. Maybe hanging out on the inside just because it feels really good. Breathing into the inner thigh space if all of this is available to you. If not, just hang out in the side bend and close your eyes and breathe deeply and stay with the stretch. So these are all just options, variations on the same theme. I'm going to be coming back up through that side bend and gently flowing to the other side. So bending over to the right, reaching the left arm up overhead, pulling the fingertips and the shoulder away from the left hip. Maybe grabbing the toes from overhead, traction, pull the ribs up toward the ceiling. Breathing into the side body deeply. And then rotating the torso and the head so that they face the leg. Still holding on. If it's possible to pull the toes back, you get more out of that full line of fascia that wraps the back of the leg, the bottom of the foot. And if you'd like, rolling on the leg side to side, you'll just feel into different muscle fibers getting a stretch as you move. So if we roll a little more to the front, we'll just get some deeper into the groin muscles, inner thigh muscles. Coming back up through the side bend, lifting up through center. And we are going to go straight forward. So hands out in front. Definitely stay on the hands wherever you're comfortable. Spine is long at first. Maybe trying elbows. Maybe you want a big pillow or a couple blankets stacked up to rest the torso on, or the head as you find your full expression. Reaching the arms out in front. And it is ideal to be able to let the head be heavy, whatever that means for you. Maybe the spine is round and the heaviness of the head pulls forward. Maybe the head rests on something in front of you. So I'm also rolling forward a little bit to internally rotate my legs. The stretch changes, more groin. And then as you roll externally, rolling back just a little bit, rotating the legs externally, it's a little more hamstring. So just different ways of stretching in this position. And when you're finished, walking the hands up. Okay. So finally, in order to get as fully into the hamstrings and the hip flexors as possible, I'm going to move myself into a split. hands on either side of the pelvis. You can hold yourself up in space that way if it's not a full split in your body. And you can stay with that for as long as is comfortable, 20 or 30 seconds. If you're all the way down, or if you have something to sort of place under the pelvis so that you can rest, you can put your fingertips right beside the pelvis, arch back, stretching into that back leg's hip flexor. And now at this point I'm folding forward, pulling the toes back. And I'm also rolling here, side to side. The stretch changes as we roll in, stretch changes as we roll out. So staying with whatever part of it either feels good or feels like it needs more time, more opening. Ideal for the back knee to be really pointing down into the mat. So we have an internally rotated back leg. So this is the deepest quad stretch that I know. Just pulling that back foot up toward the pelvis, maybe keeping the hand on the ground for balance. So we're fully extending that back leg's hip flexor, front of the thigh, by bending at the knee there. All right, we're going to shift to the other side. You can approach it from standing, so if one leg is in front and one leg is in back, slide down until the hands reach the floor, then hold yourself up, kind of like this position here. And eventually the body softens over time and more of the split becomes available. You can always place a pillow or a block under the pelvis so that you can be in a more relaxed position without having to be in a full split. Fingertips beside the pelvis, arching up and back, breathing into the front of the back leg. And then opposite, folding forward, pulling the toes back, allowing the head to fully relax, heavy head, rolling side to side if possible, feeling the stretch differently in different parts of the hamstrings. Breathing deeply, there should never be any pain. If something feels tense, it can be helpful to sort of hold the muscle taut for a few breaths and then try to release it again. And finally bending the back leg, pulling the foot in toward the pelvis. Breathing into the front of the back thigh and hip flexor. Staying present in the body with the breath. And we'll release that. So we're going to come back through center, and the last thing we're going to do here is sort of warm and mobilize the small bones of the feet and ankles. So we'll do this manually with our own hands. So bring one foot on top, scissor each pair of toes back and forth, making space between the toes. And then between each toes, sort of splitting them side to side, waking up the spaces there. Pulling each toe from its base out the top, and then pinching the top two metatarsals, shimmy, 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 down toward the heel, and then move to the next two metatarsals. So all of these bones have a lot more mobility in them than we think they do. I'm twisting here, so pulling the heel up while pressing the ball of the foot down, and vice versa. This is just a little bit of flexing. And then pulling the arch down, good stretch in the front of the ankle, and then just some big circles. Moving it with your hand, trying to let the muscles of the ankle be totally relaxed. Heel on the floor, pull the toes back. Might feel a nice stretch behind the ankle and in the bottom of the foot. And I'm just taking that out long to finish off there. And then switching feet, scissor toes, and also split toes. And then grabbing the base of each toe, pulling long until the energy kind of pops off the end. Toes might crack a little. Grabbing two metatarsals at the top, shimmy down toward the heel, and then moving to the next two metatarsals. Twisting, ball of the foot and heel in opposite directions. Grabbing the heel, pulling the ball back a couple times, and then the opposite. pulling the toes down a couple of times, making some big circles now, full range circles, allowing the hand to do the work on the foot. Heel down, pull the toes back, breathe into the bottom of the foot, the back of the ankle. And keep the toes and ball of the foot pulled back, extending the leg long. And that's the end of our warm-up.